It's lovely to be here today. Welcome to New York City. To introduce Gloria, I thought I would share some personal stories that showed me, and hopefully will show you, who she is and how to live the best life possible. Lesson number one that I learned from Gloria is to plunge into adventure. Very few people know that Gloria and I slept together once. Yes, we had a one-night stand some years back. It was a pretty unforgettable night. It was long, it was hot, it was sweaty, outdoors on a queen-sized bed, under a starry Botswana sky. Even so, neither of us have ever wanted to repeat the experience. Gloria was turning 80 that night, and we were in Botswana celebrating her birthday in an elephant rescue camp. Elephants, by the way, are Gloria's favorite animal. They are kind, they are communal, and they are matriarchal, not merely matrilineal. In other words, that the social power rests and resides in the trunks of the female elephant, not just the inheritance of property. I wanted to sleep on the star bed, built over the elephant stockade. I dreamed of falling asleep to the rumbling of the elephants many hundred feet from our hotel room. But to my surprise, Gloria signed up as well, saying that we were roommates, which we happened to be, lucky me, on this trip. For some of us, as we get older, life becomes administrative. But Gloria lives each day as fully and as fiercely as she can, and she was going to the star bed with me that night. So there we both were in that velvety darkness, hot and sweaty, not because we were making out, but because the polyester net kept the breeze out and the humidity in. We were sweating and sleepless, not from sex, but from trying to keep still so we wouldn't disturb the other. For 7 hot and interminable hours. It felt like 70 hours. Meanwhile, the elephants snored below us, and a rhinoceros, at least I think it was a rhinoceros, was snorting in the distance, and I imagined lions prowling and snakes crawling on the jungle floor. Eventually, at around 4 in the morning, as dawn broke on Gloria's 9th decade, it was safe for us to trudge back to our hotel room and fall asleep exhausted in our beds. So yes, a memorable night, not about to be repeated, and 100% an adventure. Lesson number 2, adapt and stay young. Gloria and I once had a perfectly wonderful lunch in the middle of a construction zone. There were men running around, painting and plastering. There was hammering and yelling and debris everywhere. But the way she was behaving, we could have been having tea at the Ritz. She had no idea of all the commotion going on around her. She's the guest that you can have over and not worry whether the food is edible, if there's running water, if the toilet flushes, whether there's electricity, and whether she'll get along with the others. She's the person I never have to plan around because I know she'll do just fine, and she will do her best to have a darn good time. I remember once a farmer lecturing her about activism, and then finding out, to his horror and mortification, that she wasn't just a Gloria, she was the Gloria. She does not have that calcification of attitude and habit that happens with some of us as we age. I am convinced that our exceptional adaptability is the key to our eternal youth and constant relevance. Lesson number 3, and this is very relevant to us here, be a wholehearted mentor. I remember the first AMWA standalone meeting after a decade-long hiatus as an atrophied part of another organization. We were losing the glory of our storied existence and needed Gloria to revitalize the organization, to be our keynote speaker. But Gloria told me she couldn't do it. She would be in another continent and arriving back to the United States on the day of her speech, proposed speech. But I felt that there could be no successful meeting without her. So she flew directly to Florida from her trip abroad, 10 pounds lighter after an illness and a hospitalization on that trip. And she proceeded not just to give the keynote, she danced away until 4 in the morning with the medical students, closing down the place. Yeah. So the reason we are here today is because Gloria made it happen in 2012. From 160 women meeting that year to our next meeting in New York City in 2013. Notice all the dancing that went on, courtesy of Gloria, really. And you may recognize each other in here. Oop. Oh, okay. And in the distance, we were on a yacht cruise around this great city of immigrants. Lady Liberty was in the background, herself a French immigrant. And we're back here in New York City in 2019. I believe 1,200 strong women physicians and medical students from around the world. And this is the power of unbridled mentorship, of supporting causes you believe in, whether the cause is a friend in need or an organization in need. Yeah. When it counts, Gloria shows up. When it counts, Gloria is there. When it counts, Gloria is at your side and very likely dancing. In another example, I recently sent to Gloria an email after reading Margaret Sanger's autobiography. Margaret Sanger founded Planned Parenthood. Sanger defined, back in 1930, a woman's duty as to look the world in the face with a go-to-hell look in the eyes, to have an idea, to speak and act in defiance of convention, back in 1930. I said to Gloria, I still haven't learned to do that. And she writes back promptly. She says, yes, you have. You do it in your work and by championing your patients. But if there are ways you want to do it with yourself and are not, let's work on that. And there it was, the advice bit. But if there are ways you want to do it for yourself and are not, let's work on that. Which brings me to lesson number 4. Lesson number 4, quit complaining or change the situation, if possible. Act up. Okay. I once remember carrying on about being too busy, and Gloria said, well, are you doing the things you like doing? And I said, yes. Then she said, well, what's the problem then? Gloria has a life that would exhaust many of us, yet she thrives because she's working on things she cares about. She's working on 2 books at the moment, with a movie on the way. Julianne Moore is playing her in the movie. Yeah. She travels innumerable miles a year, helping people in situations like me and Amwa in 2012. And she just managed to turn 85. The final lesson. Gloria is the kind of friend you want to have and the kind of friend you want to be. During that magical week in Botswana, when Gloria and I were roommates, I insisted on leaving the windows open, no air conditioning for me, thank you. It never occurred to me to ask Gloria what she really wanted, because as I mentioned before, she's not the kind of person you have to worry about. I woke up one night and I see Gloria at the foot of the bed, and she's wearing her long white nightgown, looking beautiful as always. And she was kind of moving around in a very funny way, like a weird dance. I finally realized that she was using towels from the bathroom to try to mop up the water pouring in from the windows because we were in the middle of a tropical thunderstorm. It did not occur to her to kick the perpetrator out of bed and ask me to clean the mess that I was responsible for. That's the kind of friend she is. She's the kind of friend who offers to break someone's kneecaps because they upset you. It's a true story. So, to summarize Gloria's life lessons, plunge into adventure, adapt to stay young forever, mentor wholeheartedly, live the life you love or love the life you live. In other words, stop complaining and try to change the situation. Be a great friend. And finally, most importantly, dance into the break of dawn. My dear friends, let's hear it for the glorious Miss Gloria Steinem.
Is this working? Okay, I just want to say that now I have the impossible job of living up to this fan-fucking-tastic introduction. How can I possibly live up to that?
Everyone can hear me as well. So what we're trying to do in the time we have left is to have all of you ask questions. I have some starter questions to get us going. And then if anyone in the room has questions, you can pass it down and I'll work that in. I think we have about 35 minutes to talk to Gloria. So I'm going to start, Gloria, with who would you say are your mentors?
She always starts with the toughest thing because at my age it requires memory. Well, Alice Walker, I consider a mentor because I think she is ahead of me on a path of seeing the world as a human being, really, as a living being, and honoring everything on it. I think Wilma Mankiller, do you know who Wilma Mankiller was the chief of the Cherokee Nation here? And she taught me that feminism, in a way, is memory. You know, that before the Europeans showed up here, there were hundreds of matrilineal tribes and nations, and, you know, all my friends in Indian country make jokes about it, you know, that what did Columbus consider primitive? Equal women, you know, right? But also, my mentors are Gayatri here. I mean, you know, listen, I am so old that I never saw a female physician in my entire life until I was about 40, right? So I am so grateful and amazed that you have countered all the obstacles. that Time's Up and academia has put in your path. So I would say you are definitely my mentors in this room.
Gloria, what matters most to you in your life right now?
You know, I get so absorbed in the present that I don't think about the future. Does that make sense to you? And actually, it's not bad because you can't live in the future anyway, right? With all five senses, you can only live in the present. So I get completely obsessed with, as I was just saying to Gayatri, trying to find through people I know who know about sex trafficking, these survivors of Epstein in the current, you know, I mean, I get obsessed with the current events and trying to be helpful within them. Now, the problem with this is that I'm a writer, and you know, that means that I don't spend nearly as much time writing as I would like to. So I guess what matters most to me is living a life in which I feel maybe I won't die saying, but, just a minute.
Fair enough. Do people have questions that you want to bring up? Yeah.
Or answers?
Or
We could use answers.
So you're one of my role models. And I came of age when Roe v. Wade had just passed. And so now here we are, all these decades later, and you were so instrumental in that. How do you now look and see that we're fighting this battle again and again and again? How do you handle that?
I think we have to remember that this battle that we are fighting is the fundamental battle. We have the one thing that men don't have, wombs. The only thing, right? And so every authoritarian or just patriarchal system starts with trying to control our wombs. We are crazy if we think this is going to go away. It is not going to go away. Every effort to maintain racism and caste systems starts with trying to control women's wombs, because if you don't control reproduction, you can't maintain those kinds of separations. So wherever there is racism, all women, whatever their race, are worse off, or their caste are worse off. And until we realize that this is the fundamental thing, we will still be naive and astonished that we have to fight this battle over and over again. We are seizing control of the means of reproduction. Even sounds radical, right? It is radical. The basis of patriarchy and racism is controlling reproduction, and we are it. So it's so much of the reason why you here are revolutionaries, because you are allowing and helping women to control our own bodies. Thank you so much. Without you, it would be impossible. But I think we need to understand that everyone, including the National Socialists, as Hitler wrongly called his political party, the first thing that he came to power on Kinder, Kirche, Kuchen, that is church hearth, for, putting women back in their traditional role, because there had been this huge democratic movement after World War I. The first thing Hitler did when he arrived in office was to declare abortion a crime against the state, and with death penalty for the physician and prison for the woman because she could be forced to have children. I mean, we just have to, it's hard because we're not taught government and political science as if women mattered. We're not. But the fact is that this first step in authoritarianism is the same everywhere.
Sorry. I
promise to answer shorter next time.
Gloria, can you tell us, how did you develop the thickest skin to be able to stand the vilification, and what words of wisdom can you give to us as now we go forward to carry on the charge?
To withstand criticism? Is that what you're saying? You think I have a thick skin? No, I obsess over. I think there is one thing, which is that there are some people that if they liked me and praised me, I would know I was in deep shit. They know that I'd done something terribly wrong. Right? I think the only hard form of criticism is when it comes from people whose values you share. And that kind of misunderstanding is difficult and painful. And sometimes, because we as women have not been able to have self-expression and positions of authority, we become in many communities it's called crabs in the basket, or in Australia it's called the tall poppy syndrome, right? That one of the crabs is going up the side and the other ones pull it down. We have to make sure that we're not expressing our own internal oppression without cause. And then we also have to just sit down and listen to each other. And if we just listen as much as we talk and talk as much as we listen, we'll get there.
Thank you. Gloria, I just wanted to say, first of all, I want to give a big shout out to Gayatri. Thank you for making the impossible possible. You always do, buddy. I just wanted to say, Gloria, as a young medical student in India, I was a big fan of yours. And as an Indian American, we have a global audience here. Many of them are youth. What is your one take-home message, and how do we kick butt? Thank you.
First of all, I want to say that India changed my life. I mean, the first thing I did when I got out of college was to go to India and stay there for 2 years. Not that I was so smart, I was just engaged and trying not to get married. But but it happened. I'm so grateful to, and my oldest friends are in India. I would not at all be the same person without being there at a time when the Gandhian organizing revolution, was fairly recent, and I kind of learned organizing in India. So I'm very grateful. And if I had one message from me, I would say, don't listen to me. Listen to yourselves. You know inside what you want to do and should do and hope to do, and so I guess that would be my one message. Don't listen to me, listen to you. Right. Oh, she's my coach here is telling me to tell you the story of my abortion, which I actually just dedicated a book to the abortion doctor, because as I was escaping my engagement to get married and waiting for my visa in London and discovering that I was pregnant and then, as you well understand, it was completely illegal, and I had no idea of what to do. But I found in the equivalent of the Yellow Pages there the name of a doctor and went to him. And he listened to me, and he said that he would help me. That is, he had to sign falsely saying that a pregnancy would endanger my life, which it would not. That he would help me if I promised him 2 things. 1, I would never tell anyone his name. 2, I would do what I wanted to do with my life. So I think that doctor was a male feminist.
Hello, Gloria. I admire you. You began the feminist movement. You remember the years of Betty Friedman? Yeah. Yes? You began the MS Magazine. My question is, did you address the men as to how they should participate in our equality?
Yes, I don't feel I began the feminist movement. We all learn from each other. You know, I mean, nobody does anything alone. You know, I think movements come from sitting in a circle and each woman being able to tell the truth and discovering that what she thought had only happened to her happened to a lot of other people, and if we get together, we can do something about it. So, what was the, wait a minute, my one message? I'm getting a coach here, wait a minute. Well, I think we are supposed to think of in hierarchy, and we don't have to. That if we remember that hierarchy was not always the way we were organized, that we were organized in circular, consensual groups, from big groups up to, you know, that's what our Constitution is based on. It's what Gandhian ideas were based on. So the shortest way I've ever been able to put that is that we are linked, not ranked.
Well, I think everybody wants to say thank you. That's the first part. And I was originally one of the original volunteers at NOW as a lawyer. But here's my question. Right now, being a woman over 70, I'm fighting a different ism, and that's ageism. And I feel that perhaps we can't use the same strategies that we've used with racism and sexism, with the ageism, because it is so internal. And I'm just wondering how you feel about that, if you've got any guidance for us who are fighting ageism.
Yes, I think ageism affects women differently because we are valued for our wombs. So, as long as we're valued mostly for our ability to give birth, then we're not going to be valued for our brains equally. And there is a very different standard of ageism, both right now, for males and females. So, you know, I think the more we focus on the cause, you know, that we are not only our wombs, thank you very much, we also have brains, thank you. And that allows us to use this wisdom and the experience. I mean, I never would have anticipated that I'd be sitting here at 85 doing what I'm doing, and I'm so grateful that I am. I mean, it's, you know, it's a huge, huge, huge reward. I realize that the only penalty, of course, is thinking that this life I love so much can't go on too much longer, though with the aid of my friend here, I'm hoping to make it to 120 or so.
I just want to tell you, I just came back from the Age-Related Disease Conference. You'll make it to 120. Yeah, they're curing all of it.
I'm a great fan. My name's Eleanor. And I would like to know from you, what would be that word of wisdom to a young girl who has become a mother to a child of conflict and is being stigmatized by the very family that she looks to for comfort? These are some of the girls that I work with in my everyday life, survivors of the Boko Haram conflict. What would be your word of wisdom, please?
First of all, that they can see you is everything, right? I mean, I thank you so much. And we, you, everyone, all of us have to make clear that they are the survivors, not the perpetrators. The blame goes to the rapists and to the culture that allows and encourages raping, absolutely not to the woman who. You know, one of the things I find helpful with this, I don't know if this will, is that men who have been in prison and in the absence of women have been treated as women, have been raped themselves, understand it was not their fault, right? And we can find male allies, I think, among men who have themselves been sexually assaulted in the absence of women, and build a bridge of empathy. But we just have to keep saying to those young women, I'm so glad they have you, it was not your fault. You are the hero for surviving. I think we need to make hero badges and, you know, all kinds of ways of recognizing their strength.
And what would be your answer if I asked you to kindly give me your autograph?
Okay. Wait, I'll see you later, and I'll do that, but you have to give me yours, because all exchanges have to be equal.
Live the life you love, or love the life you live. I would like you to talk about doctors getting involved in politics so they can have effect in the policies that affect our life. That is frustrating us. Just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you have to only stay in the care room.
No,
May I finish? I think, or I feel, or I see the difference between the female brain and the male brain as we go up the ladder after graduation is the men branch into the politics and control our life. It is about, what's the saying? Time is up.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is not possible that we can live our lives without being involved in politics. We are subject to a system of power. If we don't vote and involve ourselves in every possible way in improving and changing that system, we have given up our power. I mean, the problem is, I think, that what happens to men is called politics, and what happens to women is called culture. And you're not supposed to change culture. Wrong. It is politics too. And we need to be fully involved in every decision that affects us and the people around us. Absolutely.
Ms. Steinem, thank you. I'm a great fan, and I am pleased to note that you and I have something in common. We're both elephant owners. Thank you. My question is, with the recent statements that we heard from from your past president, Jimmy Carter, with respect to his approach to feminism and what's happening in his religious arena and stepping aside, are you encouraged that we can now take that and move on to help other men step forward and start to become, as you've stated, male feminists?
Yes, no, I think it's interesting. President Carter was maybe not our best president, but he is our best ex-president. He's great, totally great, and he's always there when support is needed. But I think the best way, I don't think we can, we've made soup and laundry for men. I don't think we also need to make their revolution, but I do think that we could explain to them that the masculine role is killing them. I mean, men still have a shorter life expectancy, And and if you deduct from the mortality statistics the deaths from speeding, from violence, from things that might logically be related to the masculine role, we figured out one day that in this country men would live 5 years longer. This is not a bad offer, right? The women's movement, feminism, can offer men 5 more years of life. Who else can do that? Also, men are being deprived of their children, and the pleasure and development of your whole self, your nurturing self that comes from relating to children. And we get to be whole people by being in lives outside the home. They get to be whole people by being in lives inside the home. So, I don't think that our revolution will be anywhere near complete until men are as active and responsible inside the home as we are, so that it's equal in the home.
My name is Morgan Levy, and I'm a pre-medical student, and I just wanted to say you've been an inspiration of mine forever, so I'm really honored to speak with you here. My question is, commonly as an advocate, an issue that I find is a misconception of what feminism is truly about. How do you deal with those who seem to misunderstand the purpose of feminism and advocacy?
Well, is there a specific, I think sometimes people think we're talking about being anti-male, or is that what you mean?
That's commonly what I've found, is there's a lot of people who seem to think feminism is an anti-male institution as opposed to having a purpose of equality.
Well, there are a lot of white people who think civil rights is anti-white, and that's just as wrong. We're just talking about equality, and if you've become accustomed to unearned superiority, that feels like an anti, but it's not. If it feels anti to them, they have a problem. It's not our problem. They're doing something that's right.
Good morning. My name is Risa Lewis, and I'm one of the founding members of Time's Up Healthcare. Two brief questions. The first is, at the end of the day, we love knowing more about the people we love. Chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry?
I have to confess vanilla and strawberry. I know that I'm maybe betraying the chocolate freaks here. I'm sorry. Vanilla and strawberry.
The second is briefly, would you be willing to come on a podcast with me?
A podcast?
A podcast.
If I can, sure, yes.
Fantastic.
See how things are changing? The word podcast, when did that enter our language? Not that long ago, right?
An audio conversation at a later date.
Hi. So thank you for being here again. It's such an honor to hear you speak. I'm a medical student, and I've seen this attitude sort of reflected in my classmates and colleagues, and especially those younger than me. Yes, sorry. So I'm a medical student, and I've seen an attitude in my classmates and colleagues and those younger than me who reject the idea of feminism and that we still need this. They believe that we're at a point where we no longer need it. It's primarily in those younger. What can we say, and how can we continue to inspire the younger individuals to push forward?
You know, what the Time's Up women just said on this stage shows you how much we need feminism, right? Any single one of the statistics that they quoted should convince people that we are no way in a place of equality. Any statistic about who earns what, in what position. I mean, parking lot attendants now earn more than childcare attendants. I don't think we value our cars more than our kids. It's just that men are doing one and women are doing the other. So just the truth should be enough, and specific truths to that person's situation.
Hello, my name's Deb. I'm from Australia, and I identify as a feminist surgeon. I would like to ask you where this comes from. We have deep misogyny in our culture. What's your explanation for this? Why have elephants got it right?
You mean where patriarchy came from?
Yes. What's your explanation?
Well, how long do we have?
What's that?
I think a historian would kill me for what I'm about to say. But I think that what happened was that there were various natural that matrilineals, not matriarchal, but matrilineal systems were the norm pretty much everywhere in the world, including in Europe, until there were natural disasters in Europe that disrupted the system, and the Horus, which was kind of the atom bomb of the era. I mean, suddenly people from the mountains and the hills came down who had horses, could travel. It's the last. Okay, right. All right. I can't go through all of history. I can see I'm being okay. But I think that the European countries got overpopulated, and began to invade other countries to get the basic goods and food and so on that they needed, which caused them to invent racism to make it okay that they were invading all these other countries, and to invent patriarchy to perpetuate the social divisions so that men controlled reproduction. But it's relatively new in human history. I mean, we've been around for a very long time. It's probably only tops, in many places, like here, it's only about 600 years of patriarchy. In no place, I think, is it more than about 5,000. So we can go forward to a different future. And that's what's helpful to me about learning about original cultures, whether it's the Khoi and the San in Africa, or the oldest cultures in India, or the old cultures here, because we can know that it wasn't always this way, and it doesn't have to be this way.
Let's hear it for Gloria Steinem.
So live the life you live, or get out there and change it. And we just going to call on Dr. Padmini Murthy for a word of thanks.
Gloria, thank you so much. On behalf of all the women here, it's our honor to present you this scarf, which was designed by one of our Italian colleagues for 100 years. And it's not black, but I hope you'll wear it. And this program book, and the tote bag, which is sustainable. It's not plastic. Thank you again, and we all love you. Gayatri, you did an amazing job. I don't know how much to thank you when Eliza and I asked you. You know we love you even more. Thank you.